let's start with the first order of business. Scribe, Todd, can you scribe for today's meeting?
I can. I'm terrible at scribing and participating, so I'll warn you.
Okay. So when you're talking, I will scribe in your place. Would that work?
Sure.
Okay. Cool. Then next order of business. The next call. So I have a couple of weeks of travel ahead of me, which means that the next call will either be on next Thursday, which is May 2nd, or on the week after that. And we can either go for this same slot on Tuesday or our regular slot on Thursday. I also opened up a doodle trying to get this straightened out before the call, but it was a bit of a last minute, so just I think that for the next one we'll try to do that ahead of time. But as far as the next call goes for folks, would May 2nd work? Would May 14th work? May 16th? Which is the preferred?
Well, let's start with May 2nd.
Okay.
Are there any conflicts on May 2nd?
We have one conflict. Does May 30th work for anybody?
May 30th or?
Sorry, April 30th.
April 30th. It doesn't work for me.
Okay, what was the next one after May 2nd?
After May 2nd is May 14th. So basically 2 weeks from now. Or no, that's 3 weeks from now. Yeah.
Ryosuke, does May 14th work?
Unfortunately, I'm out for 2 weeks.
That's fine. Next through the 17th, you're out, Ryosuke?
I'm out from May 6th through 17th.
Okay. And so for May 2nd, if we pick a different slot, would that work better? Like earlier or?
Yeah, if it's 10 a.m., I can make it.
Which one?
If it's 10 a.m.
Okay, 10 a.m. on May 2nd.
Or 10:30, I'll be fine. It's just I had a couple of noon, so like.
Okay, 10 a.m. on May 2nd works for me, if that works for everyone else. Okay, then let's set it then.
That's Pacific time? Sorry, just to confirm, 10 a.m.
Yeah.
Pacific time? Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Next up, let's talk about resource timing. So we have multiple open issues that are like the first one. Let's talk about specifying tau for 304 responses. That's issue 201. So Nicholas opened this issue a while ago, and we discussed it. Not a while ago, on February, and we discussed it on one of the last calls and said that we will try to see what does cores do in those cases. So talking to Anif and Catherine, it seems that cores is just delegating that to the cache specification, so the cache RFC. And what that says is that basically if those headers are overridden by the 304 response, then this is, the value is the one provided by the 304 response. And if there is no value provided by them, then the value that is get from the cache is the one that is the valid value. So we discussed that on the issue. Folks seem to agree that this is a good way to go. and we now I have a PR open to
Do we know if we match fetch spec in other 300 HTTP codes? I mean, like 301, 307, 302. I mean,
so the other three O's are a different case from my perspective because they don't they are redirects rather than revalidations. So the
they're different. Hey, it if we fix in this, we must fix everything, right?
yeah, so basically I don't think there's anything to fix because this is defined elsewhere. So this is defined in a lower layer. And the only thing, basically, I have a PR up that basically says, like, adds a note saying this is what's happening in other specifications. So the PR is 206. Where I think this should be just working. So for 3.0s, I mean, for redirections, they are a different case, and we are already handling that as part of the timing allow origin spec. So we're explicit about the redirections.
And then redirection matches the way fetch handles it.
Not entirely. So it almost matches it, but for cores, if one of the redirections in the redirect chain goes off of main origin and then like goes cross origin and then goes back to same origin, the same origin response at the end of the redirect chain has to provide a timing allow origin to itself, or access control allow origin to itself, where in Tau we don't have that restriction. And we previously talked about potentially adding a similar processing model, but only as part of L3, so as part of the fetch integration, with the purpose of making timing allow origin a subset of cores.
Yeah, I do remember the discussion. Now that I think about it, though, it might be pretty risky to keep it as is, right? I mean, I don't know how
Why?
long it will take. How
Why?
long it will take to spec L3, but some websites may start depending on current behavior. Keep the whatever the behavior we currently have long enough.
Yeah, so I this has been the behavior for a long while, and it also seems like not all current implementations are compliant with the now specified behavior. So not all of them are compliant with forcing all the responses in the redirect chain to have timing allow origin. So some of them just look at the latest response, which seems risky. I don't think that there's like. I would love for L2 to just reflect what is currently implemented today, or some reasonable bar of what is currently implemented today.
But I mean, if browsers are inconsistent, this you might just fix it, right? Because I mean, we don't necessarily have to redefine everything in terms of fetch to do this. We just need to mention like one sentence, say, hey, like each redirect needs to have it, right?
So the part where each redirect needs tau is already there. The part where we want, if the request chain has moved off of the origin and then back to the same origin, we would still make this origin tainted. That logic is... It's heavily defined in fetch, and I would love to be able to rely on that definition. It seems like it would be better to fix it as part of L3 and the larger fetch integration rather than
I mean,
pick this particular place where we're not conformant with cores, which we never said we would be, but we want to be in the future.
Ryosuke, I think what you're saying is, regardless of what the spec says, browsers should know that they should code for this, for protecting this. And if we don't write it somewhere, browsers aren't going to plug that potential privacy leak. Is that accurate, Ryosuke?
yeah, I mean, also it seems risky if the website starts depending on this, right? Then like it'll be harder to make a change in the future. And if the browser is already inconsistent, raise the concern. Like let's say some vendor who is currently checking it might, or like implement slightly different version may end up implementing incorrect version in the long term, right? We don't want that.
Who hasn't implemented resource timing? Like, isn't it who hasn't?
Well, you have just mentioned that some implementations don't do the tile check on every redirect. If that's the case.
Right, so do you know which implementations?
So, looking at wpt.fyi on the recent added tests that I believe both Safari and Firefox fail. Those tests, I haven't dug deeper into why, but if you look at those tests, cross-origin, sandwich, no tau. Firefox is failing 1 of the 8 tests, and Safari is failing 5 of the 8. But it's related to redirect starts, and start time equals fetch start. So it seems like both of them are not necessarily behaving as they should in that respect, but yeah,
Which tests are those you have? I'm sorry.
So the test is cross-origin sandwich no tau .sub.html. I can post.
I see it now. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I scrolled right past it.
Okay. So from my it would be significantly simpler to specify this once we have the concept of tainted origins, once we have the concept of it would be trivial to implement that once we have fetch integration, and would be significantly more complex to specify that before. And I don't see a huge value from a privacy perspective. Like Todd, you mentioned that earlier, and it's not like there aren't any attack vectors that I'm aware of that are exposed by this. So this is not something that opens up any privacy attacks that I'm aware of.
Well, why do we have the specification in the requirement if it doesn't open attacks?
So having timing allow origin on the redirect chain is something that is useful. Forcing the origin to include itself in a timing allow origin after a cross origin redirect is not something that includes any privacy related problems that I'm aware of. So the cross origin host will still has to include timing allow origin, but the cores model also forces the same origin host to include that include that opt-in to itself.
And so we're just doing it to be consistent with cores. Is that what you're saying?
So, from my perspective, the main point of this is to be consistent with cores, and in order for us to be able to say that timing allow origin is magically a subset of cores, and therefore a cores opt-in is also a timing allow origin opt-in. That all relies on a lot of L3 work and a lot of fetch integration, so I don't see a point in doing that before.
Ryosuke?
I still think it's very risky to leave it current state. I mean, who knows how long it takes to write L3, right? I mean, it's going to be a big rewrite.
And what would be the risk? How can web applications rely on that particular quirk?
That they don't set the tile after cross-origin redirect and rely on the fact that they can get the value, right? That would break. Being more restrictive now and then reducing it later would work, but being more relaxed now and restricting later often does not.
So how hard would it be to add that change, saying that even if it's same origin, you still have to look at the tile header?
Yeah. Let me see.
I mean, I don't think we need to be precise here, right? We just need to add us one normative sentence that stays after redirect.
And even more critical is having a good test that covers the case. I think if we have the test and not perfect but good normative text, I mean, it's ideal if it's perfect, but I think that will cover it.
Yeah, I think it might be worth making the change now than in L3 because it would at least give us the direction that like towards merging with the course. Was if we don't act it now, in a few years from now, who knows how many websites would depend on it and
Yeah, I think it would be okay doing the change now since it's not very big anyway. Sorry, there's a lot of rain here.
Okay. I guess the question is for if we will go with that change. Let me try to. If we will go with that change, do you? Okay, so will Safari and Firefox align? From your
I think
perspective?
it will make the implementation change. I mean, I can't promise when, but when we fix what system. I mean, that's the concern, right? Like, if we don't change the spec now, somebody will come in later in the Firefox WebKit and fix the implementation to match the current L2 spec, which would say, in the same, if the redirect ends up in the same origin, we don't check, right? Whereas if we did update the spec, chances are we would update it to, check that. So it's more that when implementation updates fixes their bugs, we might want to have intended correct behavior in the long term, as opposed to what the implementation might be currently doing. Because as the test clearly indicates, we have bugs, right? So.
Okay.
And Philippe, if we have intent and bugs from Firefox/Safari saying they intend to make this behavior, and we have Chrome that's working with this specified behavior, that's sufficient to push the spec to CR, correct?
Well, certainly yes. I thought you were going to ask me beyond CR, and I would have said yes to that as well.
Well, hey then.
I mean, it's a corner case. At the end of the day, as long as everyone agrees the spec is correct, it's just bugs in implementation. I think that I can convince the director to let us move forward with that.
And Will, from your perspective, or I don't know if Marcus is on the call, or other Mozilla folks, would you be willing to align with the CORS-like behavior?
I haven't. I think Benjamin is on the call as well, but I haven't thought through it very much. But I actually just made. I just opened a bug for Bugzilla to say that we need to implement this because it's currently broken. So I don't see any reason why we couldn't be able to align. But I've been taking more notes than substantively thinking about the conversation. So I might need to go back and look at this again offline.
Okay. And okay, and I would also like to, like, from a spec perspective, I think that I already have some draft in an earlier commit that then we decided not to go with. So the spec piece is probably not gonna be that complex. Okay. So, okay. So I'm convinced that we can probably align now, like for L2. Okay. Okay, and as part of that alignment, we, like, 304 will just, like, again, similarly will just work, but we will need to, like, I added a note as a PR saying that it's working as part of cache, as part of the cache definition, and this note will probably remain relevant after that change. Okay, moving on to the next issue, 205, resource timing and range requests. So we have multiple instances where we have requests that trigger, like we have resource fetches that trigger multiple requests, and with image lazy loading likely to land soon, that would mean that resource timing entries are likely to, like, developers are likely to see more resource timing entries that include range requests. So double the requests, double the image requests that they're currently seeing. So I opened an issue, open 205 on that. And Ilya commented that this seems to be a subset of issue number 21. Handling of multi-request fetches, which makes sense. So if everyone are cool with that definition, I will close this and close 205, and then we can focus on 21 as part of L3. Does that make sense? Okay.
Sorry, still reading.
What?
Sorry, still reading. Let me give me a few.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I agree. They're probably just
Okay.
identical.
Okay. Cool. Okay. Then I will close and okay. Add tests for not same site nested context. I think that's, like, there's not much to discuss there. We need to add tests. It's probably non-blocking, as this is like about a futuristic scenario where more browsers have site isolation, so it's probably easy to add the tests. I don't think it should be blocking, unless someone vehemently disagrees. in which case, let's talk about test status. So issue 71, we have a list of tests. And we have some tests that are not passing in Chrome, like a couple of tests that are not passing in Chrome that I'm currently working on. But more tests that are not passing in Firefox and Safari. So in previous calls, we said that like you'd be able to at least look at the tests and open issues on, like, basically agree that the tests are doing the right thing and open issues on the implementation, which will enable us to move forward to CR. Has there been any progress on that front from Firefox or Safari?
Unfortunately not, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, I hadn't seen this list until just now.
Okay.
Should we briefly go over the ones that have only one passing or less than one passing implementation and agree on the behavior of those? Because if there's two or more passing implementations, then
Yeah, so this only includes the ones that don't have two passing implementations. So that list is just the ones that have a single passing implementation. Okay, so as an action item, will you be able to take a look at that list and let us know if anything here is contentious, or because if we agree that this is testing the right thing, then I think we will be able to move forward once the Chrome ones are settled, which I plan to do shortly.
Okay, so I just want to be clear. Is our implementation of these blocking for L2, or is this something that we need to look at going forward as long as agreement that the tests are at least testing what they're supposed to test?
So once we have agreements that the tests are testing what they're supposed to test, we can move forward with L2 to CR. It would be, I think, better to have some implementation, in order to move the spec forward. But I don't know, Philippe, what's the hard requirement here? Philippe, are you still?
Yes. It's useful that the tool is reminding me that I'm muted. I think it depends on whether those tests are corner cases or not. I think if they are corner cases and we all agree that yes, they are corner cases and we should move forward without having the two implementation for this, we should go ahead. On the other hand, if some of those tests we believe they're like, no, they're actually substantive, then they're not just corner cases, and we should block on them. That's my philosophy.
Okay, so these tests are potentially blocking moving beyond CR, and
yes.
Yes. Okay, that makes sense. Does that answer your question, Will? Okay, cool. Okay, and moving on to high resolution time.
Actually, just real quick, I want to step in. So I just want to confirm, Ryosuke and Will, you guys said you were going to take a look at these tests?
I will definitely take a look at them. I can't commit any resources from Firefox to saying that we're going to be able to do this, but I can commit to taking a look at them. Yes, sir.
Okay, and then that'll probably be, is that 2 weeks or 4 weeks? What's the right amount of time?
Again, to be honest with you, I don't know, and I can't necessarily say right now. We've got a couple of things going on that I'm particularly involved with right now that are time sensitive, so this will definitely have to fall after those, unfortunately.
Got it. So it could be longer than 4 weeks is possible.
It's possible, but that seems like a long way away.
Okay. Just so you know, the reason why we're asking this question is that we've kind of had an ongoing conversation for about a year around this on resource timing. One of the oldest applications in the group. So, not trying
Completely
to
understood.
underline the reasoning.
No. In fact, I don't know if Benjamin is online and engaged, but I would like to make sure that I'm not overstepping my bounds and saying anything. So if he's around
Okay.
to comment, that would be particularly helpful.
All right. And Ryosuke, kind of the same question. I know you're on mute right now.
Yeah, so unfortunately, we have rather involved scheduling situation now, so it's gonna be tricky for me to commit in time. Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, but just so, yeah, it will be extremely helpful at the very least to, take a look at the tests and open bugs, like after agreeing that the tests are indeed testing what you think they should be.
Yeah, I will try to do it. It's just really, like, if I were to do it, it needs to be some sort of like, okay, I'll just do it in my weekend. But like, while drinking kind of situation. But I'll hope to do it. It's just like, at least for next 2 weeks, there's like a web components face-to-face coming up, and all the stuff is happening. And then, WWDC is getting close. There's a lot of things happening around here. So, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I know I will have to do it. So it's just trying to put it in the agenda, but it's really lots of stuff happening. But so yeah, sorry.
Okay. Okay, so let's move on to high resolution time. So can performance.now timers be frozen for background tabs, etc.? So there's currently Chrome behavior that is arguably a bug, where Chrome is freezing performance.now for some, like for example, in backgrounded tabs, as part of the tab freezing or tab throttling. And there are multiple people, myself included, in Chrome that argued that this is a bug and we should change our behavior. And Ben Kelly came to the repo for clarifications. And I think, like, from my perspective, I think we can clarify that this is indeed a bug. As far as the spec goes, I don't know if we actually need notes beyond what the spec currently says, where it does talk explicitly against like clock skew and like making sure that the time represented is indeed the time in seconds since since the epoch. But I'm wondering if anyone in the group would disagree with that point of view and say that performance.now should be frozen in backgrounded tabs, unlike day.now.
So what does this mean though? Like, what do you mean by frozen? As in, like, a day.now doesn't increment as fast as day.now?
So performance.now either doesn't increment as fast as date.now or doesn't increment at all. So there is potentially ever increasing skew between date.now and performance.now in that particular buggy scenario. Or non-buggy. But yeah.
Yeah, so that does sound like a bug, right? I mean, so even if you're throttling timers, there's no reason that performance.now needs to be like moving slower. Like, it's not like a time disappear, right? Time is still, going forward. It's just the timer getting not firing as frequently as it used to.
Yeah.
So playing devil's advocate here, the case where I'm trying to measure how long my function takes to execute, and I start executing my function, and then my tab is backgrounded, or the computer's put to sleep, or something like that, and then eventually it wakes up again, and my function finishes executing. If we don't pause performance.now, then it looks like my function took a huge amount of time to execute, whereas if we do pause it, it's more reflective of the actual time it took for the method to execute.
But it did take a huge amount of time to execute. In practice, it's not the function itself, but that operation did take a long time, and you can measure, like you can observe it with looking at the freeze event, or seeing whether your the tab is in focus or not. You can account for it, and it did take a longer amount of time.
So hang on, like the function pausing, I don't think we pause the script in the middle of function execution. Is that a thing in a Chrome?
Well, if you have an async call in the middle, can't you?
If it's async function, sure, but that's not really like a single function execution. But
where you put the computer to sleep, I don't know the details here, and I think probably either way, it probably doesn't make sense to freeze timers. I'm just trying to think of what the potential benefits would be to freezing them. And there might be some case along these lines where it is actually nicer from the web developer's perspective if they're trying to measure the duration of a function.
Yeah, but
Microsoft Edge has the behavior of not freezing times when we freeze background tabs. And that's been our behavior since we first did freezing in Windows 8. And we took the position that developers should be able to measure time, and if they need to measure the other signals to disambiguate time, then they should use things like the background visibility, the other events as the signal to break down this long tree.
That makes sense to me.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I agree with that statement. Also, I think that's what Safari does too.
Okay, cool. So we have.
Do we have a? Do you have a test for this in your world, Yoav, that maybe we could run in Firefox to see how we do on this case?
I don't think there's a WPT way of triggering backgrounding a tab.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like there's. It doesn't sound like this is something that we could do in WPT. But I just didn't know if you had a scenario that you were testing that we could use to test on our end.
I'm not sure I have maybe Ben has a relevant test. We can look at the issue here, and so it's Ben has a web page on the related so from that issue, not even Ben, from that issue there is a JS Fiddle. Like if you follow the Chrome bug, there's a JS Fiddle where you can see the issue happening. So that would be one way of testing whether, like, what Firefox does in that scenario.
Thank you. That's exactly what I needed.
Okay. But I think that, otherwise I don't hear anyone on the call that's saying that the right behavior should be to freeze performance.now. So
another question, do we need to be more explicit in the spec to say that if the computer goes to sleep, the timer should not freeze? Is that what system clock skew means? Like, I'm not familiar with this, but I don't see anything saying this, so should we just add this to the spec or not?
Maybe we should add a note, but I think my intent from this discussion was mostly to understand what, that we're not missing the mark here, and people think that freezing is the right behavior, and it seems like they don't. Maybe I think that normatively there's nothing to change. Maybe it's worthwhile to add a note. Yeah. Okay.
I think it would be helpful just for each browser to test their behavior when the machine goes to sleep, and if they have the idea of frozen background tabs, after the note goes in. I think this is going to be a manual test, though.
Yeah, WTP PT can't quite sleep your computer. Luckily, right? Luckily, it doesn't do that.
Okay, cool. So I will comment on that. Another high resolution time issue, issue 64. As part of the ping review or following the ping review, one of the ping members opened this issue, suggesting that we will mandate gating performance.now behind existing permission prompts. So only allow performance.now to be enabled if full screen is enabled, if media devices are enabled, or other various current permissions. I replied on that thread basically, like, from my perspective, this will not help to mitigate Spectre, which I think is what he's aiming at. The current implementations have already significantly limited performance.now as a result of Spectre, some of them to the millisecond level, others to sub-millisecond, but still significantly clamped as well as jittered. And I also had multiple, so folks from Chrome as well as folks from Firefox saying that it doesn't really make sense to go that route, as there are other timers. Although Firefox have tried to fight all the timers with something called FuzzyFox, which is, I think, a Firefox special build, but not something that is actually in production. So from my perspective, I think we can close this with while saying that while user agents are free to bar access to performance.now or any other API behind permission prompts, this is not something that the spec should mandate, if that makes sense to folks on the call. And I'm not aware of any other implementation that did that.
This is not gonna do anything, right? There's so many other millisecond precision, sub-millisecond precision measurement. So, like, I mean, yeah, it'll be good to mitigate Spectre and all that, but I don't think this will be the way to do it. Also, I don't. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, and I stated, like, in my response, basically all the other attempts that I know that Ryosuke were involved in, such as cross-origin opener policy and cross-origin resource policy and Corb and other, like, there are many other mitigations for that were, like, path where we think we can actually make a difference. And blocking timers, blocking, relatively coarse timers is not one of those paths. Like,
and to be clear, this is a massive breaking change for the internet.
Yes.
It would probably cause websites to break, would also break huge swaths of many of the top sites, real user data instrumentation. So,
I think if we were to more concretely implement such a proposal, though, right, what we're going to do is we're going to keep the performance.now function. It's just like precisions of it changes depending on whether things are allowed or not. And I think we did discuss something like that while we were having cross-browser Spectre mitigations, where we would allow with some permissions for games, to be able to use performance.now and stuff. I don't think we ended up doing that, because just because users allow doesn't mean websites can't just go random resource and Spectre attack or like attacked.
Yeah. Agreed. Okay, so
Do you
okay.
mind? Do you mind leaving that issue open with that proposed resolution for a period of time so that I can solicit input from other people at Firefox to make sure we're okay with that resolution?
Sure, sure. What would that period of time be?
Friday.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, if you can let me know once you have that feedback or comment on that thread, yeah, that'd be great.
Thank you.
Cool. Um, okay. Another issue is find better sources to quote than Wikipedia. We have an open issue where both Unix time and clock drift are defined just point to Wikipedia links, which seem fragile. I have a PR that I put together that replaces the Unix time to actual ECMA 262 definitions of time. And the clock drift part seems reasonable to leave it as is, as it's not really referencing anything that is normative or impacting implementations. So essentially, I would love reviews on that PR. That's pull request 66 on HR time, and I think that then we'd be able to close that issue. Which brings me to the next question. Assuming that we closed everything above and we fixed Chrome's issues, can we move forward with high resolution time? Can we ship? And I know that we wanted to do that for TPAC, and Philippe wanted to have another security review related to from security folks related to Spectre threats. That review has passed. So any objections to moving forward with HR time?
Looks good. Thank you for doing this extra review, Yoav.
Yeah, happy to.
So we're looking into moving our high resolution time level 2 to propose recommendation.
Yes, if everyone agree.
I think we should, once you close the issue on the privacy one, we should, give them a week to see if they're going to push back. But after that, we should move.
Okay, sounds good. Okay. Anyone else? Any objections or? Okay.
No, sounds great, Yoav.
Okay. Awesome. Okay, and in the 5 minutes we have left, let's see what. So let's pick skip the big. Complex PRs that we won't have time to review. I think that we need to republish L2, the L based on the level 2 branch, because right now the published version issue 124 on performance timeline. I think that the currently published version includes the buffered flag, and that was removed from the level 2 branch. So we need to republish. So Philippe, is that something you'd be able to help with?
Yes, I should do that. I'm probably going to do that today.
Okay, awesome. And otherwise, from a testing perspective, I'm happy to say that Will did a bunch of work, and seems like the tests are now green for everything that should be green for L2. So that's awesome. And
so just to be clear, so for L2, we just need to add commits to the L2 branch to remove the parts that are not L2, right?
So we haven't done that yet.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. We have to do before it can be republished.
Oh, I was under the impression that the level 2 branch already removed the buffered flag. But
Oh yes. I did that. Okay.
yeah. So can you verify to just to avoid Philippe republishing and then we figuring out that it shouldn't have been republished? But yeah, I think like if I look at the commits on the level 2 branch, there is a remove buffered pull request was merged. So
Right.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
So I think we're good to go on that. And in the 3 minutes we have left, so there's an ongoing discussion related to timing allow origin in the context of navigation timing. So this is an issue that Boris opened. Issue 104 on the navigation timing spec. This is an issue that Boris opened, and I think that I gave this issue some thought today, and it seems like for navigation timing, the role of timing allow origin is a bit inverse. So for resource timing, we're there to protect the resource from the document, and here we need to protect either the previous document or redirects from the current document. So I would love folks to give this some thought and see if I'm correct in that analysis. If so, we will need to change the timing allow check to also address those cases. But I want to first see that I'm not missing something obvious here, and that that definition is indeed the right, the way that I say that it should be opting in is the way that it should indeed opt in. So I'd love some some reviews on that particular issue and folks telling me that I'm wrong or right.
Who do you want to review from specifically, Yoel?
You would be one such person. Folks that have been involved in timing allow before and know this general space.
Okay, is there anybody from Apple or Firefox that we need to look at this?
I'm not sure. They haven't been super
Anna?
involved in this before. Anna may be the right person, but yeah, Anna may be the right person, but he's maybe moving, like generally moving Tau to align with cores will enable him to have a better review of this, because he's the last few reviews he's been just
Not redefining it?
yeah, he wasn't happy with the Tau definition, but maybe aligning that definition with cores will make him happier and more open to do such reviews. Ryaska, from your end, is there someone that should look at this from a security privacy angle?
So I think the main thing is that the document could be created by script, right? That's the key, case in which there's no resource. So in that case, in HTML spec, there are a few cases where the document's origins is defined. So I think what we would have to do is, so there's also concept of the what was that? Not the script execution context. The document that is a responsible script execution. There's some concept for that in HTML spec. So we'll probably need to use that one. and then check the check the tau on that. But I think even that, like, it's sort of it's a recursable situation, right?
Yeah. I'm not. So I think we need to exclude cases where the document was dynamically created, but in those cases there is no previous document and there is no redirect chain. So no sensitive information can be actually exposed from it. We just need to properly define it so we don't, like have some sort of a null check
So
there.
you're saying in that case, treat that it doesn't have any tau.
What?
You're saying that in those cases, treat that it doesn't have any tau.
Yes, and it will be fine. No extra information will be exposed.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
for cases where there is a previous document, I think that we need to make sure that that document has opted in. And in cases where there is a redirect chain, I think that the redirect chain need to opt in to the current document, so to the end of the redirect rather than to its beginning. And this is currently undefined. So like
Okay. That's fun.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So
That's
just
really-
if like I would love to have more eyes and more brain cycles on this from all other vendors to make sure that I'm not wrong here.
Sure. Yeah. So I think the target, the checking against the target makes sense. The destination makes sense.
Yeah.
I guess the one interesting case is what if no, never mind.
Okay. We're out of time, so let's wrap this up. And I will see y'all on, I think we said May 2nd?
May
May
2nd.
2nd. Okay, cool.
Right.
Cheers.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you, Yoav.
Thank you.